Welcome back to the Go to Go podcast, man. Episode 67, week 13 of the NFL season right upon us, man. This week got another segment, Hot or Not. And then obviously our week 13 pick'ems, week 12 went 12-4, you went 10-6. Still got a 6-game lead heading into the back quarter of the season, man. So jumping into these hot or nots, man. You want to go ahead, get it started this week?
Yeah, I'll start you off. All right, first one I got for you is hot or not. Bill Belichick should be the head coach next year for New England's rebuild.
Me personally, I think it's a hot take, man. Bill Belichick, I've talked about it a few weeks ago on the podcast. You know, his job, everything that's going on. Tom Brady made whatnot. It's a new school. He's an old school coach. Can it still work? Maybe. I think the Patriots, they just need a total reset. They try to bounce off the Tom Brady era, keep Belichick, the Mac Jones era. They got to the playoffs, and it's just been downhill since. Blamed it on Patricia last year, coordinating the offense. But at this point, I think it's a total revamp for the Patriots. I think they should start from the ground up. Something they haven't done in a long time, but I think maybe, after this year, it should be time when you're relying on, I know your field goal kicker missed that, basically not a chip shot, but inside 40 yards, game winner. I mean, he was just doing everybody a favor at that point, just packing up bags and sending those teams home. But I think they should just look to rebuild this year.
All right, and my second one is hot or not. Justin Fields will not be the Bears starter next season.
That's not a hot take. I mean, the Bears right now, they're locked in at number one pick. Caleb Williams has expressed he doesn't want to go to the Bears. But, I mean, you went through the draft, you're signing that contract, number one overall pick. There's no going back. So if he declares, I mean, I would kind of expect the Bears to maybe go in that direction, barring a, last quarter of the season miracle from Justin Fields, stepping it up, and they see something they like. Shown flashes, obviously, dual threat, but after watching last night, I mean, I don't think there's much to be said for the Bears situation, winning a game, not scoring a touchdown. One of the ugliest games in NFL history. Justin Fields was leading that helm. It's just, 1 week he looks really good. Looks like he could be a quarterback in this league. In the next 4 weeks, you're like, all right, the Bears are moving on. I would not be shocked, man. They got the number one pick. They got another pick, their pick, wherever they'll end up drafting. But Carolina looks locked in at that number one pick right now.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kicking it off, man. Hot or not, Josh Dobbs' insanity run has come to an end.
Touching off of that game that you just called one of the worst games in NFL history, I think it's safe to say that's not a hot take. 4 interceptions, missing some throws, had guys open. Kind of shows why he was a backup quarterback, bouncing around the league. I forgot the number of teams. Was it like 4 different teams or something like that? I think Josh Dobbs is a capable backup starter, someone that's, really good to come in to your team, be in the locker room, and, barring some crazy injury or whatever, if your quarterback goes down, your starter, he could definitely come in and win a couple games and be stable. But in terms of, being a franchise guy, somebody you really want to invest in, I mean, especially at this point in his career, he's been in the league for some years now. He's, I believe, up there closer to 30, 28, 29, something like that. So we kind of know what Josh Dobbs is. Solid backup, good guy to have in the locker room, and can win you a few games if your starter goes down. So I would definitely say his Linsanity run is over, and the expectations have kind of simmered down a bit, especially after last night, where you mentioned wasn't a good game at all. Had a touchdown pass, but 4 interceptions, missing guys, missing throws, just didn't look really good. Now, off of the bye, he does get Justin Jefferson back, activated off the IR. He's a full go, so that'll definitely help. But in terms of, projected being a starting quarterback, one of the best QBs in the league, this guy should definitely have his own starting position, I think we should, just slow down a little bit there.
Yeah, I don't expect the 4 picks and whatnot again, but yeah, I mean, we don't even need to touch on that game, man. Next up, hot or not, Matt Canada was the sole reason of the Steelers' offensive struggles.
I mean, once again, if you're just watching the game, it's not a hot take. You saw the Steelers come out. I believe they had 400 yards of offense. That was the first time in 2 or 3 years.
I think 3.
3, yeah, definitely the first time since Matt Canada has been there. And you saw Kenny Pickett be a little more aggressive. We talked about how he wasn't targeting the middle of the field at all, especially last week in that loss. And then now they come around this week. Pat Freiermuth is getting fed seams right down the middle. So you've seen Kenny Pickett able to, connect on those throws. So I think Matt Canada was a big part, but Kenny Pickett still, some accuracy questions. Made some good enough throws, but there were a couple throws you saw where, if the ball was in a better spot, maybe it's a touchdown if he's a little more on time. There were some definitely missed opportunities out there, but I think, no question that Steelers offense looks a lot better without Matt Canada. But I personally think if you have a better quarterback, or if Kenny Pickett without Matt Canada continues to improve and gets better, that offense could definitely, get to another level, because you got guys out there, George Pickens, Deontay Johnson. That's a good enough 1-2 receiver duo in this league to produce offensively. Jaylen Warren, Najee Harris, once again, that's a good 1-2 punch running back to put up numbers in this league. They got us a decent O-line. So it's really just on Kenny Pickett to get better, make those more accurate throws, progress as a passer, because everything is pretty much there. Got a solid defense. You're going to get the ball in plus territory a couple times during the games off of a turnover. TJ Watt's playing really good football. So Matt Canada definitely was a big issue. Now you just want to see Kenny Pickett in that offense get a little better, capitalize more on, and limit some of those mistakes. But yeah, that's not a hot take. I definitely say Matt Canada was the biggest issue there.
All right, man. That's going to wrap up our hot or not week 13 of the NFL season, man. Jumping into the pick'ems. Thursday night football, man. Seahawks travel to Dallas, play the Cowboys. We've talked about the Seahawks and, weeks past. One week they look really good. One week they look very questionable. And I think, Thursday night Cowboys beat up on mediocre to bad teams, and I think it's kind of similar to that. I mean, Cowboys played Thursday last week, Thanksgiving, did it to the Commanders, embarrassed them, I think it was the most watched game of the NFL regular season. So I think they kind of repeat Thursday, maybe not as much as a blowout, but the Cowboys get a dub at home.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. The Seahawks, like you mentioned, we talked about it, coming off of a bad loss last Thursday to the 49ers at home, and they have the hardest remaining schedule. Now they get the Cowboys at home. Dak Prescott and this Dallas offense is just a different animal at home. They don't lose at home at all. So I'd expect, like you mentioned, to see the Cowboys dominate this game again. Like you said, probably not, as bad of a blowout as it was against Washington, but I think the Dallas Cowboys could easily win this game by 2 possessions, 2 scores. So, yeah, I like Dallas here.
Next game up, man. The Indianapolis Colts play the Tennessee Titans. Little AFC South matchup, man. This one, I'm kind of going the Colts, man. That JT injury out 2 to 3 weeks. It's going to be Zach Moss's team once again. The Colts, what they've kind of been throughout this season, man. It's sort of in a limbo without AR. Been solid, putting up some wins. Titans, trying to figure out their identity. Is Will Levis the future? What's going on there? Still got Derrick Henry, know what he does to AFC South opponents. So expect a big game from King Henry, a little vintage throwback game. Titans get the dub at home.
I like the Colts here. Now, last week we saw the Titans kind of beat up on the Panthers. Like you mentioned, Derrick Henry got going, was able to run all over them. But the Colts last week, man, looking a little competitive. Gardner Minshew playing, good enough football. Michael Pittman, Josh Downs getting involved. But, yeah, you mentioned that Jonathan Taylor loss is going to be big. out for a couple weeks. But Zach Moss, like we saw earlier in the year, he was able to step up. So I'd expect him to step up again. And this time of year, it just really comes down to, our team's really playing for anything. And the Colts are definitely trying to play for a playoff spot. They're definitely still in contention, that wild card. They're hanging around, so they have a shot. Whereas the Titans, I think they're, kind of more towards the offseason at this point. You mentioned Will Levis. Is he the guy? Got some questions on that offense. Not really, no real weapons to, answer for. Derrick Henry, he's only getting older, although he looked good last week. So I just think the Colts have more to play for. It's just kind of like they got to win this game, and I'd expect them to come out firing. And I like the Colts here in this one.
Chargers, Patriots in New England, Foxborough. I mean, listen, if the Chargers can't win this one at this point, they were going to wait to fire Brandon Staley till the end of the year. If they lose this one, you might as well just fire him at this point. I really don't think there's much saving him. The Chargers, much better team, more talented. Coaching, you don't know. The Chargers always find ways to lose games, but they find a way to lose this one after that, would have been the worst game in NFL history next to the Bears. Vikings was the Pats Giants, because that wasn't fun to watch either. It was just the 1 o'clock window. They didn't get prime time. So if the Chargers can't win this, man, just chalk it up. Give me the Chargers on the road.
Yeah, I like the Chargers here as well. It's so funny. It's like, all season, it's like the offense has been carrying the defense. Defense has let them down. And then one game, the defense finally steps up and plays good enough. The offense just isn't there. You get the fumbles from Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler. Turnovers kill them, and they just can't win this game. So, yeah, we always talk about how the Chargers, find ways to lose. Well, I think at this point the Patriots are trying to lose. So I'm going to pick the team that, isn't trying to lose but still finds ways to lose over the team that should probably just, pack it up and get that top 1 or 2 pick. So, yeah, I think the Chargers should beat the Patriots here.
I heard the Pats drafting a long snapper, that first-round pick.
Yeah, the second overall pick, long snapper. Oh, my God.
Next game up, man. Detroit Lions travel to New Orleans, play the Saints, man, and it's, I know it's too late for a get-right game for the Lions, but they, last week get upset at home, Thanksgiving football, maybe the lights just a little too bright for the Lions. They almost lost to the Bears 2 weeks ago. So really, after trending really hot to start the season, cooled off a little bit, came back to earth, just a little. But against the Saints, we saw Derek Carr. They had a good first half offensively. His connection with Olave got banged up, exited the game, and then the Saints really struggled after that. And this Saints team, we know what they are. They're solid defense. Offense is really shaky. They got weapons. Paid Derek Carr that money. Hasn't performed. The Saints, they've been in, cap hell for the past 10 years. They've been no draft picks the last 10 years. So they're definitely not trying to lose this game, but give me the Lions on the road. And the Saints also fight for a playoff spot, in the NFC South. Still a very viable option for them to see the playoffs.
Yeah, Saints are at home, but, luckily for the Lions, they play in a dome, so we should see the best version of Jared Goff in that offense in the dome. Stereotypical, only plays good inside game for Jared Goff, but I'm with you. I like the Lions, and the biggest issue for the Lions has been their defense. You saw what the Packers did to him on Thanksgiving. Jordan Love has the best game of his career. Justin Fields comes back off the injury, is able to move the ball, puts up points. So the Lions definitely got some stuff to figure out on the back end. If it's not Aiden Hutchinson, there's, they've been shaky all around defensively. So I think the Saints and their offense is okay. They're good enough. I think they'll be able to score some points on this Lions team. I just think, the Lions are better coached, and offensively, they're more sound, and I think they're just better. So I think this will be a fun game to watch. Fantasy-wise, I think both teams should be able to put up some points offensively. But, you're going to see that, one classic Derek Carr, big mistake, fumble, interception, or just missing receivers, and then talk about it at the press conference and just act like he just didn't know it happened. So, I trust Jared Goff, although he has been a little more turnover prone as of late. I still trust him more than Derek Carr in this spot, so I'm going to take the Lions on the road as well.
No doubt. Next one up, man. Atlanta Falcons travel to MetLife, the worst field in football, to play the Jets. More torn Achilles than wins this year on that field. Give me the Falcons and Desmond Ridder at this point. I mean, they're at the top of the NFC South. Division leaders, Bijan Robinson, different monster over there in Atlanta. They're getting the running back game really involved now for the Falcons. Even Cordero Patterson was touching the rock last week. The Jets, I mean, if you're running out Tim Boyle, I'll pick against them every time. No disrespect to Tim Boyle, but come on. Jets really running them out there. I'd rather see Zach Wilson out on the field than him. But they're rocking with TB12, the Walmart version, or not even the street version, Tom Brady. Give me Desmond Ridder and the Falcons.
Yeah, as much as, I've talked about my dislike for the Falcons, it was, really nice to see Bijan Robinson actually get red zone touches and, Arthur Smith actually used him, had 2 touchdowns this past week, one on the ground and one through the air. So, hey, man, good things happen when you use your best players. So, happy to see that. But, Desmond Ridder, still their quarterback, still has some, shaky plays, didn't look the best. But, you pretty much said everything there is to say about the Jets at this point. I mean, at this point, we're just holding on for the meaningless Aaron Rodgers comeback in Week 15, which probably won't happen. But, I mean, that's all the buzz around that team right now. So, yeah, give me the Falcons.
I can't really, going back some years, remember a time where, you're at this point in the season, it seems like every quarterback matchup is this bad. I don't know if there's more QB injuries this year, but more backups.
Quarterback play just hasn't been as good, bro.
But most of these are the backup quarterbacks we're talking about, the Josh Dobbs, all right, Justin Fields, he's a starter. The Desmond Ridder, I guess him and Taylor Heineke, same quarterback we talk about every week.
Ridder's the starter. Derek Carr's the starter.
Yeah.
Mac Jones is the starter.
I guess you might be on something.
Minshew's
a backup. Will Levis is a backup.
Will Levis.
I think those guys are more fun to watch this point than obviously Mac Jones and Desmond Ridder.
It's been tough. Bryce Young.
Yeah, rookie in a horrible situation.
Yeah. Baker's been. Yeah.
We'll talk about the Panthers in a second. Next one up, Arizona Cardinals travel to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers. I am not a buyer into the Matt Canada was the sole problem of Kenny Pickett. They did look good last week. Deontay Johnson, man, we all saw the clip of him, watching the fumble go by. He's clearly not happy over there in Pittsburgh, man.
His touchdown got called back. There's 1 touchdown every 3 years.
He did have 1 this year. That should be
so that's
good
his
enough
only
for
1. Yeah, they can't give him 2.
God forbid, man. You give me the Cardinals. They played a half decent game. No, they didn't. No. I lied against the Rams. They got obliterated, man.
George with the too small.
Yeah. Greg Dortch did hit the too small. It was the smallest receiver of all time, or smallest player in sports history to hit the too small on someone. Regardless of the fact K1 another week under his belt, he's still trying to get his feet under the water, back into game speed. The Steelers, Mike Tomlin went ahead and said TJ Watt, best defensive player in the football. Once again, disagreed there with these Steelers takes. Just give me the Cardinals on the road without all the Steelers slander.
I think the Steelers win this game at home. The Cardinals are the one bad team where I feel like, quarterback-wise, Kyler Murray, he's back. And Kyler Murray hasn't played horrible. Kyler Murray's played pretty good. He's played okay. We just talked about how bad the quarterback play has been. He's come back and looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the league, which we know he has talent-wise. I just don't think around him there's enough. So, when you look at, the Panthers and you look at the Bucks and, these other teams we talk about, the Jets, where there's just, the quarterback play is just horrendous, whereas the Cardinals, like Kyler gives them hope, and I think this Cardinals team, can be a little frisky, but I just think this is just too much to overcome, especially defensively. You got T.J. Watt on the other side. You got Highsmith. You got some playmakers on that backside, and then, I mean, you're playing the Cardinals. Kenny Pickett can do just enough, and they'll be able to win this game. So I think the Steelers at home, they're feeling great. They got the first win without Matt Canada. These guys are feeling like they got the best offense in the league right now, and they might continue to believe it playing against a Cardinals defense who, doesn't offer much resistance. So I think the Steelers continue to have success without Matt Canada.
Next one up, man, the Carolina Panthers go to Tampa to play the Buccaneers, man. Bucks last week, Mike Evans, big week from him. I think he touched paint twice. The Panthers, on the other hand, got rid of the whole coaching staff. I think they fired 3 head coach, coordinator, and I'm not sure.
The running back coach.
Yeah, there we go.
Deuce Staley.
But there was very questionable. I saw the last play of the Panthers game. Obviously, didn't watch too much. I forget who they played. It was Panthers.
They played the team. I picked them, bro. The Titans. They beat the Titans. Yep. Yeah. Derrick Henry ran all over them.
Yeah, you're right. They played the Titans, 4th and 9, game on the line. They're at their own 30, and the play call was a wide receiver screen. So I think now that maybe that's gone, there could be, a glimmer of hope for the Panthers. I didn't think there could be worse coaching than Brandon Staley or Josh McDaniels this year. But I think the Panthers followed it up with the 4th and 9, last play of the game, wide receiver screen. You don't even throw it past the sticks or near the sticks. Give me the Bucks at home. Baker, like we said, just done enough this year, and he gets it done against a 1-win Panthers team.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think the Patriots can be in this category as well, but, I mean, in terms of teams that literally have zero hope, actually, no, because the Patriots have their draft pick. So, yeah, zero hope whatsoever for the season and the offseason. I mean, the Panthers are just, like, they're number one in that. In terms of finding a head coach next season, who's going to want to coach this team, not really any talent on that roster at all. Like you mentioned, Bryce Young is literally a rookie quarterback trying to do everything by himself, like he's Tom Brady carrying the Patriots. So, yeah, tough situation. The Bucks, on the other hand, I mean, they're playing mediocre football. Baker's definitely throwing it, so that's nice. Mike Evans is, continuing his hot streak that he's had in his entire career of, 1,000+ yards, looking like he'll hit that again. Chris Godwin, Kadon, solid weapons. Defensively, there's been, some struggles, but, yeah, they're playing the Panthers, so they'll win the game. Give me the Bucks.
Miami Dolphins travel to Washington, play the Commanders. I was one of those Commander believers in the spread on Thursday, man, and they've lost all my, the Sam Howell gunslinger, little quota he's been in, taking all those hits, most sacked quarterback of all time, possibly. I mean, just give me the Dolphins. This is a should-win game for them. Big loss, Jalen Phillips, torn Achilles, out for the year. Defense has been looking good. Phillips has been the only consistent pass rusher all year for the Dolphins. Sad to see him go down with an injury, but you still got guys Bradley Chubb, Christian Wilkins, Van Ginkel off the edge, Emmanuel Ogbah should be able to get the job done, especially against the Commanders' O-line that is probably worse than the NFL. So give me the Dolphins on the road plus or minus whatever the spread is too.
Yeah, I like the Dolphins here as well. I mean, this game just has classic Commanders written all over it. Sam Howell will throw the ball 35, 40 times, but for a bunch of yards, a couple touchdowns, but it won't mean anything. It really won't. Talent-wise, I think the Dolphins are just better. You've seen what this Washington secondary has given up. A.J. Brown had a couple big games against them. CeeDee Lamb was able to eat against them as well. So big-time receivers don't really have any trouble finding success against this Commanders secondary. And then you throw Tyreek back there, who's arguably the best receiver in the league. Jalen Waddle, dynamic in this offense, the way they're able to use speed and motion. I'm sure they'll put up a bunch of points, and Sam Howell will continue to put up a bunch of yards and continue to probably lead the NFL in passing yards, but, at what cost?
Denver, the newly revamped Denver Broncos, they travel to Houston and play the Texans. I think this is going to be a good game, one of the better ones on the schedule for this week for sure. And the Broncos, they played the Browns last week. I'll talk about the Browns later. Played a solid game. Russell Wilson used his, veteran leadership, his, knack for the game. He made a couple, check plays. It turned out to be chunk plays, 20-plus yards down the field. One of them was that little pizza read option he called. Got off the edge, and, he was gone for, I think might have been like 30 yards. But the Broncos, they look good. Javonte Williams has looked like a solid workhorse. Samaje Perine got some touches last week as well. Cortland Sutton's been getting his targets. Defense, secondary, Pat Surtain, obviously. Defense is all right. They've stepped it up second half of the year. So they look like a viable option. Against the Texans, man, I really like C.J. Stroud. The way he's been playing, the way he's been battling. Almost had another comeback last week. Just a yard short on a field goal to send it to OT or win it. I forget which one it was. Regardless, Texans have been hot. DeMeco Ryans coaching his tail off over there in Houston. I think it's going to be a close one. Broncos, they just get it done on the road in another shootout, 30-plus points.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a matchup of two teams who are, progressively gotten better throughout the season, and two teams that are starting to heat up at the right time. Like, this is when you want to be playing your best football, and I think right now is, without a doubt, both of these teams are playing their best football of the season. You mentioned, C.J. Stroud, his connection with Tank Dell has been electric. And then you got guys like Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz stepping up. Noah Brown, he's been out the past couple games, but, when he's in, he's been a really, really big target for C.J. Stroud as well. Solid run game. Just got some questions there on the defensive end. And then you mentioned, man, we were saying Sean Payton, Coach of the Year. I was saying, he's going to be the one come in, turning around. It looked pretty dark there in the beginning of the year, but veteran coach, veteran quarterback, two guys that, have had success in this league in Russell Wilson, coming together and playing some, really good football down the stretch. I think defensively, them being able to, get stops and, that defense turning around, giving that offense some solid field positions. It's a lot easier to run plays on your on the other team's 40 than it is your own, so it makes it a lot easier. I think the Broncos are a competitive team. I think, like you mentioned, out of all the games we've said so far, this will probably be the most exciting, the best game yet. But at home, I think, the Texans, that big playability edges out the Broncos just a bit, who have looked really good. And I think are, both of these teams definitely playing for wild card, playoff hope. I think the Texans, one big play here, there, C.J. Stroud connects to Tank Dell on a big pass. One big explosive play, I think that's the difference. Whereas the Broncos, offensively right now, they're more of, they want to get drives going. They're more methodical. They don't really have anyone offensively, I think, that gives them that juice, that big play potential. Or, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, those are two solid receivers, but they're not, taking the top off of the defense. They're more of, route running, getting open possession receivers, whereas you got guys like Tank Dell and Nico Collins who have shown this year they're able to get open deep. Tank Dell especially, electric, able to take the top off. So I think one or two big plays there for the Texans will be the deciding factor. And I think at home they get a solid win here.
Yeah, best game so far. And I don't think it's close on paper. But next game up, man, Cleveland Browns in L.A. at SoFi playing the Rams. And Kyren Williams coming off a 2-touchdown game, came back from injury. He looked really good. 5th-round rookie. The Rams, you kind of don't know their identity. But, it's still up in the air for the Rams. Matt Stafford, you know what he's going to do. Cooper Kupp, Puka slowed down a little bit last week. I think they got banged up. Kupp did, at least. The Browns, last week, Kevin Stefanski once again finds a way to just be one of the worst coaches in the NFL after I give him some type of credit. I mean, it took 2 weeks this time, but he found a way to be one of the worst play callers last week against the Broncos I've ever seen in my eyes. It was horrible. It was atrocious. I don't think there's enough words for it. The Browns' defense wasn't spectacular. I mean, you know, they had a couple blemishes, a couple miscues. You know, team's banged up head to toe. Myles Garrett, shoulder injury. Don't know if he's going to be playing. Top down, the roster's hurt. At the end of the day, it's the Rams. You hold Kyren Williams. You limit those guys on the outside. I think it'd be just fine defensively and not really too special. The Browns is going to be DTR or PJ Walker starting this week. One of those two guys. DTR with the concussion he's going through right now. So we'll see who the Browns starter is, you know, come Sunday. But regardless of who it is, PJ Walker's won games. DTR, rookie quarterback, he's won a game. I think the Browns should get it done on the road with better play calling.
Yeah, I just think this Browns defense on the road, we mentioned LA teams playing games at home is not really a home game. I'm sure the Dog Pound will be out there representing well in LA. So, I mean, you saw the Chargers last night, or 2 nights ago, Sunday night. Yeah, Lamar getting MVP chance in that stadium. So, you know, that tells you all you need to know about home field advantage in LA. But nonetheless, the only thing I'd be worried about from the Browns side is, you know, that Browns defense. We know how good they are. Myles Garrett got a little banged up. Hopefully he'll be ready to go. I'm not, you know, too sure the extent on the injury. I'm sure you've heard more. You will know more on that. But these past couple weeks, that Steelers game and then last week against the Broncos, the run game seemed to give them some issues in terms of, you know, Jaylen Warren had that one big run against the Browns, kind of got it going on the ground. And then last week, the Denver Broncos, you know, Russ, like you mentioned, had that one big run, and they seem to be moving the ball a little bit on the ground, whereas, you know, the Rams, they just had their best game, and Kyren Williams coming off of IR, he was running all over the Cardinals. So if they can get him going, maybe that gives the Browns a couple troubles, but they're not playing the Cardinals. This Browns defense, I'm sure, you know, they'll be up to task. And, you know, offensively, you just got to, I think if they just protect the ball, like you said, better play calling, I think this Browns defense can do just enough to able to get this win for them. So I like the Browns here as well.
I see another end around called this weekend, reverse back to someone. I think Kevin Stefanski should be gone at this point. Enough of the Browns, man. 49ers, Eagles, man, game of the week, probably. My opinion, man. I'll go ahead and let you go with your Philly.
You can go. I'll go after you.
All right, man. Yeah. I mean, 49ers, Eagles, heard a lot of talk, you know, Eagles being home dogs at 10-1. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it should be a little more balanced. Jalen Hurts, you know, second half comeback after being down big against the Bills, multiple scores. Comes back, wins the game. You know, Eagles defense did their part, held up their end of the stick, got to stop when they needed to in overtime, and late in the game as well, they were getting some stops. So the Eagles right now, they're hitting on all cylinders, man. You mentioned that A.J. Brown on the outside. You got Smitty. I think Philly got her back in the lineup yet or no?
They're saying he's going to try to play this week against the 49ers, but if not this week against the 49ers, he's definitely going to try to come back for the Cowboys. So there's a possibility he's getting near ready to come back. So he might be there.
And, you know, Brock Purdy, rookie quarterback, Shanahan's going to be dialing up those quick passes to get the ball, you know, out of his hands. With this Eagles defense, you know, 2 young studs up the middle. You got the vets on the outside. Brandon Graham, I think, was the guy mic'd up last week for the Eagles, and he said it. They don't know we have Jalen Hurts, man. Hurts let it down, man, and Jake Elliott, he seems to be – he has that clutch gene as a kicker, and that's what makes
definitely does
kickers great. I mean, look at Vinatieri, man, just that clutch gene. I think it's going to be a really good game, man. Christian McCaffrey, fully healthy. I mean, this is what the NFC Championship was supposed to be last year, this matchup right here. obviously with the healthy 49ers roster to some extent. And we're finally going to get it. I think the Eagles 10-1, if they move to 11-1, I mean, it's just going to be insane. I can't see the only loss being the Zach Wilson and the Jets this year right now at this point in the season. Just give me the Niners. It's really a coin flip in my head. I saw you pick the Eagles, and I just wanted to switch it up. So, honestly, I think this could go both ways. Two top teams in the NFC right here.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Eagles here. Obviously, rocking with the Eagles bias, but I really do think the Eagles could win this game. And, watching that game last week against the Bills, there's only two quarterbacks in my lifetime that I've watched, whereas, when they have the ball, I just know they're going to score, they're going to win. And number one is Tom Brady. And, growing up, being from South Florida, we always get the Dolphins game. So playing the Patriots twice a year, we're always seeing Tom Brady. And it's I can't remember how many times seeing Tom Brady with the ball in the game. You just know he's going to win. They gave the ball to Brady. There's time left on the clock. He's just going to win. And the other quarterback I would say is like that is Patrick Mahomes. No matter what, if they're down, it doesn't matter.
You're scaring me for a second. I thought you were going to say Jalen Hurts and Tom Brady.
No. Patrick Mahomes, okay. You see, especially against that playoff game, 13 seconds is all they needed. Go down, get points. I think Jalen Hurts is entering that category. Now, being an Eagles fan, it's you don't think it could be your quarterback, but I mean, that Chiefs game, seeing Jalen Hurts go down, making all the big plays, time left, doing everything he can to put his team in position to win. And then last week in the fourth quarter, in overtime, I mean, he just made every big play there's to make, especially, both of those games, not playing good at all in the first half, not playing good football at all, turnovers. But when it matters the most, being able to keep the team's hopes alive to win the game, Jalen Hurts goes down and makes, both big plays. And I think last week against the Bills, the big play was third down. He hits Devontae Smith on that dig route across the middle, keep that drive alive. And, against the Chiefs, it was obviously that big shot down the field to Devontae Smith. So Jalen Hurts, I think he is in that category now in terms of, trust and ability to win games. Outside of Patrick Mahomes right now, I mean, quarterback-wise, I don't know who else you would have in that category. Now, I'm not saying he's as talented or, can throw the ball as good as Mahomes or as good as some of these guys in the league. But in terms of clutch gene, in terms of, being able to make the right play, calm under pressure, and, just having the confidence and guys believing you and going down and making those plays, 14 straight wins against teams with a winning record, while down 2 weeks in a row. Jalen Hurts just wins. So having that confidence in your quarterback, I think this will be the second big test for the Eagles. This will be the third big test, in my opinion, for the Eagles this year. That Bills game, I kind of expected the Eagles to win. I was kind of, closer than what it should be, but I expected them. I think the Cowboys earlier this year was the first real test. I'll give the Dolphins some credit. It was a good game. Yeah, but in terms of, real test, I would say the Cowboys. And then I think this 49ers game is going to be a really, really good game. Now, last year in the NFC Championship game, everyone was healthy. Brock Purdy just got hurt during the game. So, before Brock Purdy got, injured, it was an even matchup on both sides of the ball. So I think it will be a good game. Hopefully, the weather isn't horrible. Last week it was pouring down raining, which didn't stop Josh Allen. But, no one wants to see a rainy, bad weather game. You want to see, all the conditions, everything perfect, and just two really good teams going at it, which I think it will be. But to me personally, I think the biggest deciding factor and the biggest mismatch, because both of these teams are very good offensively, defensively. Both teams are very similar. Pass rush for the Eagles, elite, best part of their defense. Pass rush for the 49ers, elite, best part of their defense. two back ends that, throughout the season have had some bumps. They've been able to, they've been vulnerable. You saw what the Vikings did to the 49ers. You saw what Joe Burrow did to the 49ers earlier this year. They were able to find success through the air. You saw Josh Allen last week. You saw Patrick Mahomes if his receivers were able to catch the ball. Dak. These guys are having success through the air. So I think both defenses are very similar. Offensively, the weapons. Both O-lines are solid. You got Ayuk for the 49ers, Deebo Samuel. Versatile weapon. Christian McCaffrey, arguably the best back in the league. And, Eagles, Swift has been running the ball very, very well, especially in overtime, had that big run. And then A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, I'm going to continue to say they're the best tandem in the league. So to me, it just comes down to quarterback. And I don't think there's an argument or a question to be made in terms of who is the better quarterback. I think it's by far Jalen Hurts compared to Brock Purdy. Now, I think Purdy is a good quarterback. He's a serviceable quarterback. Now, the numbers might be, favored towards Brock Purdy. Some people might think, Purdy is better. But I just think, it comes down to it. Who would you rather have the ball in their hands? And I think it's no question Jalen Hurts, big play, able to use his legs, able to, make big throws through the air when they need it. I'm gonna say it right now. I'm expecting the big A.J. Brown game. He's been quiet the last couple weeks because he's been getting doubled. Smitty stepping up 2 big games back-to-back weeks, making big catches. But I think A.J. Brown, he gets going this week, and I think the Eagles win a thriller at home.
Did you see what Emmanuel Acho said?
I did.
About your boy Jalen Hurts not looking the part. I went to research the exact quote.
Yeah, I saw that.
Any takes on that is,
I think if you want to say that in the first half of the last 2 games, that's completely fair. Jalen Hurts even said it himself after the Buffalo win. He didn't play good football in the first half. And, against the Chiefs, he didn't play good in the first half as well. So I think it's fair to criticize Jalen Hurts. He's criticized himself that, to start these games, they've been kind of slow. Play calling hasn't been there. We all talk about these wide receiver screens. It seems like everybody wants to call them now. I don't know if, third down screen to Julio Jones is the best play call. But so I can understand the criticism for Jalen Hurts throughout the year. Maybe because, the last time we saw him last year in that Super Bowl, he looked amazing, 300-plus yards. Besides that fumble, Jalen Hurts played an excellent game, maybe even outplayed Patrick Mahomes. But so far this season, I think he's been up and down. But these past couple weeks, especially down the stretch, and, everyone's saying the gauntlet in all these games that, was supposed to be the hardest stretch in football, that so far we haven't lost the game. When it mattered the most, when Jalen Hurts has to step up, when he has to make these big plays, he's been lights out. So I can understand Jalen Hurts definitely deserves criticism. You want to get into MVP talk? As an Eagles fan, I think Jalen Hurts is the most valuable player on that Eagles team. Me personally, I'd give it to Tyreek Hill. I just think, there's no quarterback separating themselves right now. And if there's ever a year to give it to, a non-quarterback player, I think it'd be this year. But I don't think you can say he doesn't look the part or he's not a good quarterback, because when it matters the most, when he has to step up and make the biggest plays for his team down the stretch in the fourth quarter, in overtime, when he's trailing by double digits, Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in the league. So if you want to give him criticism starting out the game and saying, he hasn't played well in certain spots, definitely. But when it matters the most, when you have to win, there's not another quarterback in the league besides Patrick Mahomes, I think, is better.
I don't think he was necessarily like, first half he played bad.
No, yeah.
But no, in the fact of, it's like, even I understand what he's saying, maybe not to the certain extent, but you go out there and you might see him just loft a pass that goes 40 yards, ends up being a touchdown, big play, whatnot. And then you kind of see like the Pat Mahomes, like you sit back and you might not be wowed by Jalen Hurts, but who cares? You're winning football games. At the end of the day, he's going out and performing. So I get that aspect.
Aesthetically, I get it. And I think it all comes back. It all comes back to his Super Bowl performance. We saw him, put the team on his back, and in that Super Bowl, he was wowing everybody with his legs, big throws down the field. And I think it does have something to do. He's been banged up. I think ever since that Rams game, he kind of got banged up. So it doesn't look as good. But, I mean, hey, man, if your quarterback's going down the field, making every throw, running the ball, protecting the football when it matters the most, that looks good to me. I mean, we're sitting here talking about, all these teams with the play calling, the quarterback play isn't looking as good. I mean, listen, when your team really needs it, when the best player on your team is stepping up and leading guys, that looks as good as it possibly can get. So I get what you're saying. He's not, the big plays. Doesn't throw the best ball. I mean, you saw Josh Allen go out last week on the same field and look,
wow,
so much better than him.
Real Josh Allen.
Yeah, through even in overtime, Josh Allen, come down to the Gabe Davis miscommunication. Mm-hmm. Josh Allen in the element, showing off that big arm, making all these crazy throws. But at the end of the day, Jalen Hurts, that team, he's in total command. You don't see the miscommunications on the Eagles side of the ball. Those guys are all in sync. Even in that Chiefs game, the receivers having some drop problems. Travis Kelce, their best player, arguably the best tight end of all time, not on the same page, has some bad drops with Patrick Mahomes, who I think is personally the best quarterback, whereas the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, I think, the way he carries himself and his confidence, these guys are always on the same page. Everyone on that team believes in him, and I think it's hard to argue in terms of winning football games that Jalen Hurts isn't one of the best quarterbacks. And I know everyone says, winning isn't a quarterback stat, this and that, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, the best guys, the best quarterbacks, they find a way to win. Now,
hold on,
take Justin Herbert
out
of that conversation. Yeah.
Preseason, the quarterback, wins wasn't a quarterback stat. Now, I'm just saying you're contradicting yourself. Just
I've never said
go ahead,
winning doesn't matter. I think it does. But in terms of Justin Herbert, this is another whole... we can talk about this.
There's exceptions for Herbert, huh?
It's not exceptions. It's just that, you got to take into consideration what's going on around him. It's tough. I think, I know. It's valid. Like, yeah, you would like to see Justin Herbert go out and win these games, but it's tough because, I mean, listen, I'll be the first one to admit, if you want to talk about the Eagles, I mean, look what's around Jalen Hurts.
And I think that's why part of it saying, it doesn't wow you, because the team around him is so good. The coaching is so good. They're dialing up the right plays. They're all on the same page. And sometimes it goes overlooked because the quarterback doesn't have to go out there and put the team, even though he does on those last drives, the team helps you out, carries them, and the quarterback went out there and finished the job. And Jalen Hurts, I think he kind of gets that Tua treatment because the team around him so good, the play calling. Now, granted, Tua probably has more growing pains, not as good as Jalen Hurts. In my opinion, as a Dolphins fan, I can say that comfortably. But still, both elite level quarterbacks that, situation around them that maybe discredits.
I would say that even at this point in the season, the Eagles kind of rely on Hurts a little too much. Like, we got DeAndre Swift, who's been really, really solid down these last couple of stretches, but he's only getting 14, 15 carries a game. That's a guy who, I know he's been banged up. He's had injuries, but, I mean, this is the time of the year. You might want to lean on him a little bit more, especially with that O-line. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that should be getting, north of 20 carries a game to kind of make it easier for Jalen Hurts. But like I said, man, when it comes down to it, when big plays need to be made, because I think, this is the big difference between Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts at this point. Herbert's had the ball in his hands at the end of games multiple times. And as much as we like to say that, or even myself included, like, Herbert's done everything he can. Like, he's made the big plays. Like, guys are just fumbling, like, or, dropping passes. Like, yeah, that's true. But all these times we see Jalen Hurts with the ball in his hands, things just seem to go right. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, for some quarterbacks, like I kind of started, like, I think Tom Brady was a perfect example growing up. Like, if Tom Brady had the ball in his hands,
never give the ball back to Brady, man.
Everything just seems to go right. Like, Brady makes the right pass, guys just seem to catch the ball, and then I think Patrick Mahomes has this kind of ability as well, where I don't care how bad they're dropping the ball. Last year in the Super Bowl, like, they had Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore. These guys are making big plays for him down the stretch, And then, having Travis Kelce doesn't hurt either. So, I mean, I think Jalen Hurts has definitely played himself into that category where I just trust him. Down, doesn't matter how much time left is on that clock. You don't want to give the ball back to Jalen Hurts. And coaching wise, I think they have full belief in him. And you saw Sean McDermott last week, fourth quarter. There's 20 seconds left on the clock. You got timeouts. Like, you don't even want to give Josh Allen a chance. The way he's been throwing the ball, the way this Eagles secondary they were on the field all game. You guys were killing them, and you don't want to give them a shot to go down and get points. Like, you literally lost in the playoffs on that same reason with less time on the clock. Yeah. Like, you've seen that it's possible firsthand, and you want to go down and say, like, oh, Josh Allen is just as good as Mahomes. He's on this same level where I think he has the talent to be, but you guys aren't trusting him. You guys aren't believing in him as he's on that same level. So I think you definitely should have gave him a shot. I think it might. I mean, if you were watching that game, you saw that Eagles secondary, like Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis. He had his big showing.
Shakir, I think, had a catch.
Shakir.
On him.
I mean, Don Kincaid. Listen, the Eagles secondary, they're gonna give up yards. So I think Josh Allen definitely should have had a chance. And then in overtime, it was tough, just not on the same page. Who's wrong in there? It's hard to tell. I'm not, on the sideline in the quarterback room. I'm not sure, what the call was in the huddle. It looked like Gabe Davis was in the wrong, adjusting to the pressure.
Gabe Davis.
I'm just kidding. Listen, I don't know what they're teaching down there over there at UCF.
Hey, but, they teach legendary stuff, man. 4 touchdown playoff game. That's what they teach.
Listen, your boy Motor's looking good for Houston right now.
561 FAU Motor, product. Yeah, he is looking right, bro.
But regardless, I think this Eagles 49ers game has all the playoff implications. It's going to be a very, very big game. And I think it's not a must-win game because I saw if the Eagles win one more game throughout the year, then they've clinched a playoff spot. You'd like to have the 1 seed. I think this is a very, very big game. I think we have to win this game because I'm going to be honest. I don't think we'll beat the Cowboys next week on the road. I think we split with Dallas. So this would be a really, really big game to stay kind of, ahead of Dallas if we do end up dropping that game. But we'll talk about that next week after all this goes down. But I like the Eagles, man. I'm riding with my Eagles here at home against the 49ers in what I think will be a very good game. And I'm not saying the Eagles are 100% going to win. Like you mentioned, I think it's a very close game. I think the 49ers could easily win this, but I think I like the Eagles. But I was very shocked to see the Eagles be 2.5-point dogs at home. I thought it
was at 3 when I first saw it.
I think it opened up at 2.5. I don't know if it moved to 3 or whatever, but regardless, when I saw it, it was 2.5. So that definitely shocked me. I thought it'd be 2.5 the other way. But hey, man, you know what happened last time the Eagles were underdogs. So that's all I'm gonna say.
Oh, the Chiefs? Was it the Chiefs?
No, man. 2017. Lane Johnson with a dog mask, man. Okay.
Hey, man. All I got to say, shout out Brandon Graham for that game.
Oh, and speaking of Lane Johnson, he should be good to go. I know he missed last week, had a little soreness Sunday morning, I believe, and didn't play last week against the Bills, but he should be good to go for the 49ers. So that'll be really, really big. One of the best offensive linemen in the league.
Only 2 games left on the Week 13 calendar, man. Sunday Night Football. Chiefs travel to Lambeau and play the Packers, who are, kind of hot, man. Jordan Love, biggest game last 2 weeks, I think, he's performed at a, very, they were elite games, elite level games of where, he's throwing upwards 300 plus. First time in his career, went out, got the job done against the Lions, NFC contenders. Chiefs pack. Mahomes, I think they get back on the right track. They were trailing against the Raiders last week. For a little minute, they got back on track, put things together. I've been hearing people say Travis Kelce is washed, that he's not good. Age is getting to him. I mean, last year they said it. I'm here to say, I'm standing with Travis Kelce. I think he's going to be just fine. One of the greatest tight ends to ever, play the game of football. If not, the greatest wherever you put him. Give me the Chiefs on the road against the Pack in a tough environment. I think this would be a decent game.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think this will be a really good game, but we did all that talking about QBs and stuff, and I just mentioned how, if you got Patrick Mahomes, you got a chance. And you talked about the Packers playing really, really good. Jordan Love stepping up, playing. This is another team, I think, in there with the Broncos and the Texans, just in, another conference, whereas in the Packers, they're playing their best football of the entire year right now. So it's really nice to see Jordan Love get that confidence and those trust in those young receivers. But I just think, veteran Patrick Mahomes, like you mentioned, Travis Kelce, even if he is getting up there a little bit in age, maybe he doesn't make 4 big plays. I think, 1 or 2 big catches down the stretch will be enough to beat a young Packers team, inexperienced team. And when you play these tough games, tough environments in prime time, you got, Andy Reid, you got him as the coach. You just find ways to win games. And I think the Chiefs would do just enough to win games. I mean, I've been higher on the Pack this season. It's been up and down. I really wanted to pick the Packers here. They're a fun young team, but it's just Patrick Mahomes, man. Like I mentioned, he's up there with the best of the best in terms of just finding ways to win and just being clutch, having that clutch gene. So I think 1 or 2 big plays down the stretch, get it done for the Chiefs here on the road.
Yeah, you said it earlier. I think the Bucs are kind of like a frisky but not really fun team to watch. The Pack, in my opinion, they're a frisky and fun team to watch because you really don't know what they're getting. So.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say the Bucs are playing, the best football of the season now. I feel like, earlier they were. Yeah,
but they're frisky, but they're not, fun. They're kind of. I can't even say the Texans are frisky anymore, or even the Broncos at this point. Maybe they are, but. Like the Steelers, they're frisky but not fun to watch. I mean,
well, maybe now. I mean, they're putting up yards.
Yeah, so, who knows?
Kenny Pickett gets it together. Hey.
I don't think so, but
me neither. Yeah.
AFC North. Well, it's not a matchup. Cincinnati Bengals Monday Night Football. They go to play the Jags in Jacksonville. They're hoping for a little Burrow T-Law moment. The two guys dueling it out at QB. Instead, we got Browning versus T-Law. The Jags, they've been playing some, hot football of late. Were able to scrape out a dub. The defense kind of collapsed there at the end. Once again, that's obviously the problem with the Jags most of the time. But T-Law, he's been getting back, cooking his connection with Calvin Ridley. Past few weeks look better. Gotten on the same page, looking really good. I mean, Christian Kirk. Travis Etienne's getting his. The offense looks like how we expected it coming into the year and kind of like they finished last season where they were really hot back half of the year. At home against the Bengals team, backup quarterback. Defense isn't elite. It's not bad, but it's not good. Joe Mixon, I said it last week, what do we have in Joe Mixon in this tank at this point in his career? And everything that's going on, I think T. Higgins banged up. You still got Jamar on the outside, but it should not be enough to beat the Jaguars. If they do, it's a huge upset. And the Jags, they're fighting for that division, to win the division right now and just clinch it. Maybe, rest the starters week 18, but they're on the right track. They got to handle business against the Bengals, who are a, less talented team right now without Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much covered everything. No, Joe Burrow is just a killer for this Bengals team, especially how they started off kind of slow. Bengals and Joe Burrow have been known to be that second half team, kind of get right down the stretch. When they made that, Super Bowl run in the last couple of years, they've been really good that back end of the season. But with him not there, it's just really tough. And you touched on the Jags. Trevor Lawrence, big game, division game on the road, finding a way to win. Him and Calvin Ridley getting going. Christian Kirk has also been involved a lot too. So I think this Jags team is another one of those teams that they're starting to play their best football now. So I think the Jaguars get it done at home. And shout out to the Jags, man. Good enough to finally get a home primetime game. Like, this is insane, dog.
Yeah,
it came a long way.
On Monday night, too, man. It usually just be like a little Thursday night game or something light like that. But
I mean, there's a reason they're always overseas, man. It's just
yeah, I mean,
give their home games to other countries.
I had a boy who went to the Jags playoff game when Blake Bortles was over there, and he was like, there was more opposing fans in empty seats, than there was Jags fans out there.
I think that was they beat the Steelers that year.
Yeah, it was again.
No, they beat that year. They beat the Bills and Steelers. I'm pretty sure.
And then lost to the Patriots by 3
conference
points.
Championship. Yeah, like I said, Brady came back.
Dude, I mean, I don't
Second
even want
half.
to begin the amount of times I've seen Tom Brady come back in my lifetime against the Dolphins as well. Regardless, man, that's going to wrap up Week 13 pick'ems, man. Any last comments, takes, anything like that?
Oh, man, should be excited for these games. Should be some good games.
Yeah, we'll see. On paper,
In-season
maybe not
tournament
so.
coming up for the NBA, too.
Yeah, in-season tournament. I think they're starting to wrap up the pool play, group play, whatever they're calling it, man. A little AAU style. I don't know, man, but do you like the in-season? I feel like it hasn't changed much. Like,
I mean,
like
I
it's
still
an
have like
in-season
no.
game.
I'm not really sure like what's going on still.
Yeah, they're like it's an in-season game. I'm like, yeah, I don't. Either I'm watching the game or I'm not. In-season's not making me watch it. Like,
I feel like until like, the like actual tournament in Vegas like happens and like teams like are trying to win the like the tournament or whatever, it's not really going to like. To me, they just all feel like regular season games still.
They just change the court and give my eyes like a headache. That's all they want to do.
Some of the courts are decent. I'll give it to them.
Some of them are,
nice,
bro. But like some of them just hurt to look at. Like,
yeah, like I don't like the heat, like that bright red. It's just tough. But like the Hawks, they have that like baby blue. I like that one. The Warriors have a decent one, I think. So some of them are cool, but yeah, there's definitely some out there courts.
Too many colors, man. Boise State-esque.
Blue turf.
Blue turf, yup. Regardless, man, that's gonna wrap up episode 67. Go to go pod on TikTok, man. Go to go, Apple, Spotify, podcasts, whatnot. Go to go, YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until next week, man, peace.